The neon lights in the hospital corridors dimly flickered. Under the trembling fluorescent lamps, the hospital had turned into a graveyard, its silence only disrupted by the moans of patients and the footsteps of the staff outside. The streets were deserted, and the city had turned into a ghost town. The merciless pandemic had spread, covering the world with a dark death dot, and a room in the hospital for individuals had gathered. Dr. Emily Turner, Dr. Richard Hayes, Nurse Sarah Foster, and researcher Michael Harris realized that they were a group of people immune to this horrifying pandemic. However, while the world continued to decay outside, these for individuals inside needed a plan to survive. As Emily looked out the window with a longing for an open sky, she spoke. "We must stop this pandemic. The people outside might be the last hope left in this hospital." Richard nodded. "Yes, but first, we need to find the source of the outbreak and stop it." "Michael, your research might help us in this." Adjusting his glasses, Michael spoke. "Yes, I agree. We have developed a vaccine in the laboratory on the lower floor. Perhaps this vaccine can stop the spread." As the group wandered through the hospital corridors, they encountered the living and lifeless remnants of the chaos caused by the pandemic. Zombie-like infected individuals roamed the corridors, ready to attack at any moment. The group had to deal with these dangers. When they reached the laboratory, Michael immediately began preparing the vaccine. However, they could hear the screams from outside. In a world dominated by the pandemic, surviving and becoming humanity's last hope was a challenging task. With a worried expression, Emily looked at the others. "We have to use this vaccine. It might save the world." Once the vaccine was prepared, the four decided to leave the hospital, facing the dangers awaiting them in the outside world. Infected individuals roamed the streets, attacking the group and trying to eliminate their last hope. As they exited the hospital, they were surrounded by a group of infected individuals. In the midst of the conflict, Sarah was bitten by an infected, while the others rushed to help Sarah in agony. Michael made the decision to use the prepared vaccine. However, the vaccine's effects did not manifest. Immediately. Sarah's wounds did not heal, and she quickly began turning into a zombie. Only Emily, Richard, and Michael remained. As Richard embraced Sarah hopelessly, he said, "He must stop this pandemic. Sarah's death should not be in vain." After losing Sarah, the remaining three continued their efforts to stop the pandemic. Despite facing many challenges, they succeeded. Michael's vaccine brought the pandemic to a halt. However, this success came at a cost. Everyone's life except Emily's. Richard and Michael died while fighting infected individuals walking through the hospital corridors. Emily was the only surviving human. However, the surroundings were filled with death and destruction, and the sky was covered in a dark shroud behind the clouds. As the last surviving human, Emily did not know how to continue in this shattered world. Nevertheless, she held on to the hope that a new dawn might one day emerge. As the days passed, Emily tried to survive on her own by distancing herself from the hospital. Despite facing challenges on the road, she managed to evade infected individuals thanks to Michael's vaccine. However, with every step, she thought about her losses. and loneliness transformed into an internal void. One day, she decided to return to the city she had left tiredly. The sky was still dark and covered with clouds, but a glimmer of hope sparkled within Emily. Perhaps, as a result of efforts to stop the pandemic, the world would bloom again and people would return to life. Upon returning to the city, the streets were still silent and empty. However, she noticed a change due to the effects of Michael's vaccine. The number of infected individuals seemed to have decreased. When Emily approached the vicinity of the laboratory, she stopped for a moment where the vaccine was found and reminisced about the past. Upon entering the laboratory, the silence inside was conspicuous. However, Emily found a note on Michael's work desk. The note explained to Emily that the real source of the pandemic originated from an experiment conducted in the laboratory. Michael confessed that the experiment had ended in failure and that infected individuals had caused the spread of the pandemic while he fled. Learning this truth, Emily once again fell into despair for the world. However, she had decided to use the vaccine, and she believed there was still a chance, perhaps, she could find a way to restore the world to its former state. Emily decided to prepare a vaccine on her own using the equipment in Michael's laboratory. This time, she proceeded more carefully and cautiously. Over time, she succeeded and developed a new vaccine. When she ventured outside again, Emile began to explore the city using her vaccine. This time, when she encountered infected individuals, she could heal them. However, during this, she noticed that people had started to go somewhere beyond the world. Perhaps the pandemic had led people to live in harmony with nature, deciding to follow the path that people had taken. Emily left the city. Along the way, she helped people she encountered by using her vaccine, each one she filled with hope to erase the traces of the pandemic and start anew. The world began to flourish over time. Emily, along with people adapting to nature, found a new hope in a world that had survived the devastation left by the pandemic. She was now the sole person who had changed the destiny of humanity, survived in a post-pandemic world, and rebuilt hope.